We wanted to give you some insight behind the voices of Sonder Characters.
I love all my episodes equally. Living in London, I spent half of my life on trains and the other half waiting for them.
I'm never going to get close enough to a swan.
Your problems are so real, Andre.
It was very real.
I can easily cut it out and no one will know. There are no consequences.
Imagine if you could do that in real life.
I see this lady, she was wearing black, and I said to her, "Would you like my seat? Please have my seat. You're pregnant, right?" Andre, she said, "No." Let's hope 2023 goes a bit smoother. I'm Anna, and together with my co-host Andrea, for this episode, we'll be talking about important things, mainly us.
Oh, I agree. We wanted to give you some insight behind the voices of Sonder Characters. So for today's episode, we'll be the main characters. We'll be asking and answering questions about each other, about the podcast, about creating the podcast, and lastly, we'll become experts at what we do best, thinking about life. Welcome to Sonder Characters.
Okay, Andre, let's start with some questions. And the first question is, if you had $1 million, what would you do differently?
Oh, Anna, it's so easy. I would move closer to you and start a few businesses. I have a few ideas.
Closer to me. Are we moving to the Maldives?
Or wherever.
Wherever. Just
Wherever.
follow me.
Yes. What would you do with $1 million?
I would invest 20% of them. I would pay off my house. And the rest will probably be for my family and for charity. And I don't think much will change otherwise. I don't think I will do many other things differently.
I love how boring this answer is, and I love how much I love it. Next question. If you could go back to your 20s and change one thing, what would that be?
I think I would go back to the time when I moved to England. And I think I would live with English people instead so I can get an English accent. And probably I would go to therapy earlier.
I cannot believe how offended I am by your answer. You wanted to swap me for English people.
In the first year, we didn't live together, Andre.
Okay, you can take that year back.
But other than that, I don't think I would change many things. I enjoyed making mistakes and suffering the consequences.
I absolutely agree. I also wouldn't change anything. I would just go back and tell my younger self that I really don't need to care so much what others think of me.
Now, question, what was the kindest thing someone ever did for you? Or one thing that you learned or happened to you that changed your life forever?
What a difficult question. The kindest thing that someone did for me, it was a very, very special friend who showed up for me when I was in a really, really hard spot. It wasn't just the fact that they showed up for me, it's that they did it without me having to ask for it. It changed the way I show up for people in my life, I think. My motto is, if I care, you don't need to ask for help. If I can help and it's no effort for me, I will do that for you regardless. Because I think it just made me think of, wow, of course they showed up for me in that way. Because what I needed then was no effort for them and it meant the world for me.
So it made you a better person, a better friend?
Yeah, I think so.
One thing that I learned, and honestly, I think I would have liked to learn it earlier, was the law of attraction. And then pretty much everyone I've met over the years, I think I've learned something from them. Either something that I don't want to be or something that I wish I will become at some point. The hurt people was a big one because it's not all about us. If someone does something to us, most of the times has nothing to do with us. And I think once you learn that, our life is so much easier.
Yeah, because it's not really about not wanting to hurt someone. It's just that sometimes people don't know how to behave differently, isn't it? And it's so much easier when you take the focus of what have I done to deserve this to being more empathetic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I did prepare an answer for what was the one thing that happened to me that changed my life forever. Losing a parent in my early 20s was just really a learning curve that I didn't necessarily want or need, but it really changed my life forever because it gave me a scale of understanding pain in a way I didn't before. I think it put a lot of things in my life in perspective. Sorry, this is such a sad answer, but it's true because my thinking is not that I invalidate, normal life pains, but if it's not life or death, I can see it in a more realistic scale, I think.
Some things make you really change your life, but it's not always for the worst, can also be for the best.
I think so. If you could give 18-year-old Anna just one piece of advice, what would that be?
To be kinder and worry less. Is that one piece of advice?
Yes.
Yeah. And as you said earlier, if it's not life or death situation, it won't really matter. What
Yeah.
about you? Do you have a big one?
Yeah. Continue to write, draw, and dance. Just do you.
Just do you. I like that. Okay. If you can have one superpower, what will that be and how would you use it?
Oh my God, I'm being super pragmatic here, but I would teleport.
That's exactly what I had on my list.
Really?
Yeah, I have teleportation because I want to be in the Maldives after work on a Friday. I mean, honestly, living in London, I spent half of my life on trains and the other half waiting for them. So teleportation makes the most sense, you know?
Okay. If you could change your career tomorrow and have any job in the world and all the qualities required to be good at it, what would you choose?
I think I would choose to be a therapist.
I think that would really suit you.
I just adore listening to people's problems and their lives in general. I'm just very intrigued by people and getting paid to listen to someone.
Oh, you've already done it for free for me so many times.
I know you. I might as well get paid.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I already have all the qualities to start a few businesses. You know, that's what I would do. It would just be so fun. Like one day I would have an idea and yeah, just go for it.
Andrea, what's your biggest fear?
Seriously? Birds.
Giving birth?
No, birds, the animals. You know, they're beaks.
Birds!
Anna, you know this. I really dislike chicken, but not only.
No, we weren't that close for me to know. I honestly didn't know.
Let me just put it this way. I'm never going to get close enough to a swan.
One of my biggest fears is, heights in general. And I feel like if I could save someone's life by jumping off a plane, would I do it?
Yes.
And unfortunately, I think I will have to sit and think about that one. I'll be like, yeah, so we are billions of people in the world? Depends whose life. But I would have to take a second to think about it. It's awful, isn't it?
I don't think that the odds of that actually happening are big enough for you to have to worry about it.
Thanks God for that, because I would have said no anyway.
Okay. If you could give something up today to bring you closer to your version of your ideal life, what would it be?
To a certain extent, maybe fear of failure. It's not that big, but still, I still think there is a bit of a fear of failure in me.
Fair enough.
You?
My phone. I mean, the endless hours of doom scrolling. I do a lot of that. So basically, what I'm trying to say is not just my phone, it's procrastination, I think.
Yeah. I'm going to find it fun to send you a letter every time I want to have a chat with you.
Mm-hmm.
A shame you don't like birds.
I was going to say that's never going to happen.
If you could monetize something that you already do to help others, what would it be?
Random answer, but I would help others plan their meals. I'm very good at it.
And I think I would like to get monetized for listening to people's lives.
Maybe you should consider a change of careers.
Nah, I'm okay, thank you. I'm also an empath, so if everyone I'm listening to is very sad, probably I'll end up a very, very sad person.
Anna, let's get to the questions about Sonder Characters, the podcast. And I'm going to start with, what do you think was the most surprising or challenging part?
Liking my voice and my accent, I think, was a big one. That was the challenge. And it was surprising that now I like them both. So that's no longer a threatening challenge. And the fact that I really enjoy everything about the podcast, all the aspects of it.
I have the same answer. For sure, getting used to my voice and enjoying it. I didn't think that would happen. I remember listening to our intro episode and thinking, oh my God, this is very annoying. But now I really enjoy it.
Because we have to listen to ourselves over and over again while editing. You start enjoying it after a time. You need to give in, It's just background noise at this point.
Exactly. And you know what was surprising? How much I tend to use the same words by episode.
Perhaps you're right.
I think that's correct.
Okay. If you had to start this podcast all over again, what would you do differently?
Seriously? Not much, Anna. I think I would probably just make sure that I am more emotionally stable, and I say that with a lot of honesty. Uh, but for anyone who wants to start a project like this, a piece of advice here: there is no right time, but maybe just do a check in with yourself. If you're too tired, burnt out, emotionally going through something, before you commit to start something new of this scale, so you can give it your best shot. Because I love doing this podcast as much as I love thinking about it. Committing to it every single week, showing up every single week while I was actually going through something, it meant that I really had to push myself to a level that I haven't really quite done before. And my own self assessment of well being wasn't very accurate when I started this.
Yeah, I agree with you. The fact that it's never a right time to start, but then you need to be in a relatively positive space. On the other hand, Andre, I also think most of the good things in life don't happen at the right time or the best time or when you're the best self.
I
So,
absolutely agree. And I think if this was me going through something, can you imagine how good it would be when I'm not going through something?
yeah. To be honest, on my side, I would have started it sooner so I can learn even more.
You never
I've
told
learned
me that.
Well, I've learned so many things from these episodes, and it's just so exciting.
And we're gonna do some more in season 2. Anna, what topics would you like to discuss, but they are too controversial or too taboo to do so?
I think the world is full of controversial topics or taboo, but I don't think all of them are worth discussing. Even though I would like to talk more about gender, I would like to talk more about sexuality. But personally, I don't think I'm educated enough or I don't have the necessary experience to discuss all of them.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
What about you, Andre?
Um, I don't think that I find too many topics controversial. On this podcast, when I think that something is controversial, I also think that maybe it's important to discuss this. Why is it controversial? But I would love to share more about our experiences in the context of Sonder characters. I would like to do a bit more of that because I think there's a lot of strength in sharing journeys. And we do get that across in some of the episodes, but I think it's what makes us us and what makes Sonder characters interesting.
I relate. I
Mhm.
relate. That's why we do it together. Which episode do you think was your favorite and why?
I really like money stories and early relationship stages. I like the jokes, I like the vibe, I like the stories, but I don't have a favorite. I just think that in some of the episodes, the topic warranted a more casual conversation than others.
This is similar to the question we ask parents, like which child is your favorite and why? I love all my episodes equally. But to be honest, I really enjoyed the early dating stages episode as well as the episode about men. It was very intriguing to get a glimpse into their lives and kind of understand why they do what they do or why do they act in a certain way.
I think the learning curve in all of the episodes was very real for both of us.
Yeah, especially when you have data to back them up, huh?
The amount of biases that I found, I feel like I'm becoming a specialist in cognitive biases by the end of season 1.
What part of making Sonder characters is your favorite?
Creating the episodes for sure. I love just thinking about what we're going to talk and what is the perspective, what is the stories that we're going to bring and share. I love every single second of it.
For me, the entire process is fascinating. I really like structure and I really like research, creating the little videos. But I think my favorite part is the fact that I can easily cut out phrases. So let's say I said a stupid joke, I said something, I repeated myself, I can easily cut it out and no one will know. There are no consequences.
Imagine if you could do that in real life.
Woo! Andre,
I'll change my
even.
answer. If I had a superpower, it would be that. Anna, what part of Sonder characters was the easiest or the hardest?
The easiest was the website because I did not get involved. So trust me, it's wonderful. Like sondercharacters.com looks beautiful. I like it. So it was very easy for me with that. And the hardest was having to sometimes give up on my level of perfection or this idea I have that is never good enough. And with these episodes, I don't think I have a lifetime to make it better and better and better.
I think if we were going to go by your level of perfection, we would never had a season out on Spotify.
I know. First episode coming up 2050.
The social media part was the easiest for me. I just opened my Instagram and suddenly everything was there. Thank you for that. The easiest for me, joke aside, was the creation of Sonder Characters. I don't know. I just feel like shall we say that story, Anna?
Yeah. Which one?
Of how we created Sonder Characters.
But don't worry, I can cut it out if I don't like it.
Exactly. So creating Sonder Characters was the easiest thing we've ever done. We created Sonder Characters because we were chatting on the phone and I said, I would really like to start the podcast. And you went, me too. And 24 hours later, we had the name, we had the concept, we had our values, we had our topics. It was just so fast.
Yeah.
I think we surprised all our friends because they felt like this has been a long time coming and why did you not say anything? And I was like, no, that's not what happened. It was born in 24 hours. And then the hardest part was definitely the editing because it takes the longest and my divorce. Leave it at that. I think that was the hardest part of Sonder Characters for Anna as well. Okay, if someone gave you 100K to give up on this podcast, would you?
Show me the money. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Andreea. What would you say?
My sword code is, and and also I would tell them a disclaimer that it comes in a package with you and the cat and the dog. So take them.
I would leave you out. I would ask for another 100K for the rest.
Mm.
Because I'm a businesswoman, deep at heart. What piece of advice would you have for us? But before we started our podcast.
Don't record with a chest infection.
Oh, that's a big one.
Very big, because no amount of editing will save your voice.
You can try, but you will fail. Trust us.
To be honest, I think we have nailed pretty much all of it because we project planned it. We had contingency. We thought about how this is going to fit in with our full-time jobs. We thought about what we will do when and how we will solve issues if they arise in differences of opinions. And we had many of those, but that's fine. I think we nailed it because we got our whys very clear. And I don't think I would say anything different. Just keep going, even through the divorce.
You have to. And I think, again, I would have started it earlier.
Exactly.
Okay. Shall we see what other people are facing in the world, Andreea, and give them our expert advice?
I have just the situation for you.
Okay. Situationship.
Situationship indeed. So this is something I found on Reddit and it says, I, 25 female, am having trouble coping with my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend being significantly more attractive than me. My boyfriend and I have been together for about 8 months and have an awesome relationship. I don't feel any trust issues with my current significant other. He makes me feel loved, safe, and comfortable. His ex-girlfriend was very controlling and he ended their relationship because of it, but she was also absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. I'm an average-looking girl, and though he finds me attractive and expresses it often, I can't stop comparing myself to her. Ever so often, I find myself looking through her social media and I become incredibly upset about it. I hate that he has downgraded so significantly, even if he tells me he doesn't feel that way. Does anyone have any advice for how I can cope with this?
Yeah. First of all, I think she should block her so she cannot get on her social media anymore. She needs to learn to love herself. And if that means a bit of meditation, journaling, every time she gets upset, just write a couple of lines, let it out, feel the feeling, but move on. What would you say, Andreea?
I think we are our own worst enemies sometimes. There is a reason for which people break up. And if she already knows that his ex was very controlling and he still chose her over it, looks are not everything. Actually, looks are only a small part of the package. Still significant, but comparing yourself to someone who's not in your partner's life, you're basically not focusing on the relationship. You're focusing on comparing yourself to someone else who's not even there. I actually think that comparing yourself and talking about yourself in that negative way, even, the way she worded it, I hate that he has downgraded. I don't think the guy has downgraded. He probably made a really good choice for his life, for his own well being. And he probably went in his head through the thought process that, looks are not everything. I think she needs to work on the relationship that she has with herself. She probably brings a lot more to the table than she thinks she does.
Exactly. And I mean, the fact that his ex was controlling, he really wanted to get away from that. That was not attractive. Doesn't matter how beautiful, wonderful, fantastic a person is, if they bring negativity and toxicity in your relationship.
Beauty is so relative, isn't it?
Yeah,
I would like to tell her that she's very, very young and she needs to focus on what she brings to other people's lives. That would be my advice. I think she needs to work on the relationship she has with herself and on her self confidence.
exactly. I mean, you're an individual, and comparison shouldn't even have space in this conversation.
Yeah, I would flip the switch on this. If someone exes would be more beautiful than I was, which is probably the case sometimes, I would be like, fair dues to you. Well, thank you, expert. I've got another topic for you. I think you're really going to enjoy this one.
Okay.
It's from Reddit again. And the question is, does anyone else have an unhealthy relationship with money? I have a really unhealthy relationship with money. I am obsessed with saving and investing to the point I feel so guilty even spending on little things like lunch or Netflix. For context, I'm 22, earning 25K in the UK in my full time role and 9K in my side hustle. I live in Blackpool, so expenses are generally quite low, and I tend to put around £600 into savings each month from my full time role, and everything from my side hustle is being reinvested. But I still worry and get stressed over saving. I admit that this is a very privileged position to be in, but I'm just looking for some advice and if others have struggled with this.
You know what? At some point in my late 20s, I felt like I was a bit behind, financially speaking, with my savings, with my investments. And I had a period of time where I felt like, no, everything I make has to have a purpose, has to be invested, has to be saved. And then I realized, is that fair to myself, to the life I'm living? And also, life is so short. You cannot live every single day with this thought that, okay, why would I have a takeaway when I can invest the money, or I cannot go out with my friends because I need to save the money? I don't think that's very healthy for us long term.
No, and I think the trouble is that it doesn't matter how much you earn, the thought process is still there. So even if this person would earn more, they will still worry about saving. And I think that makes you very, very not present in your life. Every single time you feel guilty about spending money on lunch or refusing a drink, it chips away at your everyday happiness. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't save. You should definitely save, but it's a little bit more about the balance in the relationship you have with money as opposed to trying to look to the future. Because when the future comes, yes, you'll be better off, but you'll have no stories to share with anyone. He needs to work on his relationship with money. And, there are certain books that can help you with that and doing shadow work. And what are your thought processes about money? Where do you inherit? Where is this fear of spending coming from? Because obviously he doesn't have a cash flow problem. And he doesn't specify here whether he's saving with a certain purpose in mind. Because I've been through periods of my life, particularly when I was saving for the deposit for my house, where I said, I'm going to do nothing for the next 8 months because I just wanted to get it over and done. Like, just rip a band aid. And it was worth it, but it had like an end in sight.
Kudos to this person at 22 years old. I don't remember being so conscious and self aware of my financial situation. I don't think I had that level of intelligence. I think this person is doing great. Probably having a budget will make him feel better about himself, about the money. If you want to go to that movie, if you want to get that drink, do it. And I think once you have a budget, it takes a bit of the guilt away.
I think so. I would also say that the process behind getting rid of that guilt is just you have to do it. You allow yourself an amount of money that you can spend guilt free.
If there is a purpose for the money, okay, by 25, I want to have my own house. How much do I need to save? How much do I need to invest in order to make that happen? If it's a short term goal, maybe that can be justified. Beyond that, I think life is way too short. When I looked at unhealthy money relationships, they say that they can be classified in one or more of these five categories: fear, avoidance, resentment, shame, or guilt. and obsession. So he already knows the problem. He's a few more steps ahead than a lot of people. We might hate money and we don't know why.
In our second episode in Money Stories, we talked about where do we inherit our money beliefs from, and so much they come from the way we grew up, whether we had too little or too much, or what we heard others saying. He sounds like he's actually seeking advice, which is great. I hope he does well in life because he's definitely ahead of the game, but let's hope he doesn't make it his whole life.
Now, Andre, if you had to tell me a story about a time when you thought you were being kind, but instead you weren't being a nice person, what would that story be?
Oh my God, it's so lame.
We like lame.
Right. Okay. So I was in this job and I was working in an office, but my desk was kind of a reception desk and it was really close to the kitchen. Somehow it became my job to empty the dishwasher at the end of the workday. And because I started doing that, people started leaving their mugs in the sink, tea stain mugs in the sink, so I could also load it. And I was like, wait, hold on just a second. This is an office full of 70 people. So I got bored of it and I was thinking, this is so disrespectful. This is not my job. I was just doing it because I didn't like walking into the kitchen and seeing all these mugs. Eastern European mentality, I think. Anyway, I spoke to my work friend and I decided that this is unacceptable. So we're going to leave a pleasant note saying, please put your mugs in the dishwasher. Please unload the dishwasher, blah, blah. That sort of stuff. So we make this big poster. And then the next day I go into work. My poster is there, nice and shiny. And I see a mug in the sink and I lost it.
Your problems are so real, Andre.
It was very real. Okay, I was a lot younger, right? Anyway, I see a mug in the sink and the director of the company walks in and he says, oh, someone put a poster up. And I just go, yeah, that would have been me because somehow it became my job to load and unload the dishwasher and I can't do this for the full office. And look, it didn't even work because there's a mug in the sink already and it's only like 10 to 9. And he picks up the mug. He says, really sorry about that. And started washing the mug. And I was like, oh my God, I'm mortified. I didn't really mean to. And he was like, no, fair enough. You said it. You put a poster up. Heard you loud and clear. It's not your job to wash my mug. I don't think I was being unkind, but it was definitely not great.
So I have a story. It was during the period where I really wanted to be a better person. And part of that was to do one nice thing a day for someone else or, for the environment. If I see something on the floor, I pick it up kind of style. Got up in the morning. I was very positive. I was like, today is a good day. And I'm a very nice person. I got on the train, it was packed, but somehow I managed to get a seat. I see this lady, she was wearing black. And I said to her, would you like my seat? Please have my seat. You're pregnant, right? Andre, she said, no.
Anna.
So, you know how I felt like I was closer to heaven for being a nice person? Suddenly, I was so close to hell. I remember this story. Kids at school were taught how to be nice people, and they were given this task. Every day, they will have to report one good thing they did. This kid comes to school and says, today I helped an elderly cross the street. And he said, oh, but it took such a long time. I didn't enjoy it. I don't know if I want to do it again. And the teacher said, why did it take you such a long time? What went wrong? And he said, well, it took me a long time because she didn't want to cross the street. And it's a wrap.
It's a wrap for the season. Let's hope everyone has a good Christmas, a happy new year. And you'll hear us in season 2 of Sonder Characters.
Let's hope 2023 goes a bit smoother.